Millfield, Ohio was the kind of town where everybody knew your order at the diner. 2 eggs, over easy. Wheat toast, black coffee. That was Kevin Harmon's breakfast every Tuesday and Thursday morning at Patsy's on Main. He'd sit at the corner booth, read the local paper, wave at people coming in, and by the time he got to the sports section, half the restaurant would have said good morning to him twice. People liked Kevin. Not in the way you like a politician because he's useful or because he scares you. They liked him the way you like the guy who coaches Little League, even when his own kid isn't on the team. Kevin Harmon had been mayor of Millfield for 3 years when Diana Voss came into his life, and for 2 more years after that before anyone in town figured out what had actually happened to their city. He'd met her at a regional development conference in Columbus. She worked for a family's consulting firm, the kind of firm with a name that sounded respectable and offices in 4 cities, and a client list that was never fully disclosed. Diana was 38, precise, and wore the kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need a room to go quiet to be noticed. Kevin, who had grown up in Millfield, coached youth basketball, served on the water board for 6 years, had never met anyone quite like her. He found it thrilling in the way that men sometimes find things thrilling before they understand what they've walked into. They say power is taken, but in this city, it was quietly negotiated over lukewarm coffee and signed in the margins of zoning laws. Diana, the sharp-eyed wife of Mayor Kevin Harmon, understood this better than anyone. While her husband commanded the podium, Diana commanded the room, a silent shadow at every council meeting. Even on their wedding day, amidst the golden glow of the ballroom, Diana's focus was elsewhere. She wasn't looking at her husband. She was looking at the power brokers in the back row, planning the city's future. But progress under Diana had a heavy price. Marcus Webb, a man of 40 years' service, was the first to fall. In a dimly lit office, he packed away his life. His desk littered with complaints, designed to silence his dissent. Then, the physical landscape began to shift. The Rudder Street playground, a sanctuary since 1962, fell to the steel blades. Faded photos of laughing toddlers were ground into the dirt to make room for luxury glass and steel towers. The local health clinic, a lifeline for those with nothing, saw its doors locked tight without warning. They thought no one was watching. They were wrong. Gloria Simmons sat at her kitchen table and connected the dots. Her yellow legal pad was filled with a meticulously recorded history of a city being sold from under its people. At the town hall, Gloria stood, her posture resolute, and looked Mayor Harmon straight in the eye. She asked the question everyone was thinking. Are you running this city, Mayor? Or is she? The charismatic Kevin Harmon found himself with no words, his confidence evaporating under the heat of a single woman's courage. As Gloria sat down, a spark of hope was finally lit. The quiet takeover was quiet no more. After the meeting, Kevin drove home in his F-150 and sat in the driveway for 10 minutes before going inside. He knew Gloria was right. He had known for a while. In the quiet way you know things you're not ready to act on. He had told himself that Diana's involvement was good for Millfield, that she brought connections and expertise that the city needed. He had told himself that not every decision had to come from him to be a good decision. He had found 100 reasonable-sounding ways to describe what was actually happening. Diana Voss had identified in Kevin a man with genuine public trust and discomfort with confrontation. She understood that those two things create a kind of power vacuum that can be inhabited quietly. Over time, she hadn't taken his office. She had simply made herself indispensable to it. One relationship at a time, one committee at a time. Millfield was effectively being governed by someone the residents had never voted for and couldn't vote out. Kevin had known, too, that she was hard. He'd seen how she ended conversations when they were over, not a second later. He'd seen how she remembered grievances with the precision of someone keeping a ledger. He'd seen how she talked about people who got in her way, with a flat clinical assessment that was worse than anger. He had told himself these were professional qualities. He had told himself she was different at home. He had told himself a lot of things that he was now sitting in his driveway at 9:47 at night, not quite believing anymore. The realization settled over him like a cold fog. He was the one who had let it happen. In the quiet halls of Millfield, the silence often speaks louder than the politics. Kevin Harmon was once a man defined by small gestures, but behind the closed doors of his home, the light of his career began to flicker against the growing shadows of complicity. A reflection in a dark window reveals a man caught between who he was and the consequences of what he allowed to happen. He remembered Gloria Siemens, who stood for 40 years with a legal pad and a vigilance that he had somehow lost along the way. We remember him in 2019, helping after the tornado. He was the neighbor who always had a casserole and a comforting word for everyone. But there is a wide, cold chasm between being a kind person and being a person who possesses the courage to stop the hurt. Kevin stood at that moral crossroads for years, choosing the path of least resistance until the paths began to diverge forever. It took an outsider's eyes to see the pattern. Priya Desai didn't look for kindness. She looked for the objective truth. When she slid the folder across the desk, Kevin offered only a dismissive promise to look into it. He was gravely mistaken. The State Ethics Board doesn't wait for promises. In the blue glow of a computer screen, the formal complaint was finally filed. The ticking clock of accountability spared no one. Files were pulled and contracts examined as the comfort of Millfield began to unravel. At the podium, the face of the town's favorite son looked old and tired. He announced he would not seek a third term. Words like conflict of interest and procedural irregularities replaced his name in the headlines and defined his final legacy. The suitcases packed by dawn, the welcome to Millfield sign becomes a receding memory in a dusty rearview mirror. Now, the main street sits quiet at dusk. The town remains, but the trust that held it together has been deeply shaken. The kitchen is dark. The glass is empty. Kevin Harmon is left alone with the reflection of a life that stayed silent. At Kevin's last public event as mayor, a ribbon cutting for a renovated library that had somehow survived everything. Gloria Siemens was there. She stood near the back, still with that patient, watching quality she'd always had. Kevin saw her from the podium and held her gaze for a moment. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. It was the look of someone who had said what needed to be said, at the right time, to the right person, and had not been heard until it was too late. Millfield recovered, the way places do. Slowly, unevenly, with a lot of volunteer energy and a lot of town hall meetings, and a lingering wariness that takes a generation to fully fade. The park was restored. The clinic reopened under a non-profit. Marcus Webb testified before the ethics board and was vindicated, though nobody gave him his job back. Kevin moved back into the private sector. He coached his youngest daughter's soccer team. He still ate at Patsy's on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, though the booth felt different now. Smaller, somehow. Or maybe it was just him. People still liked him. That was the hardest part for him in the quiet moments. He had done real things for real people, and they remembered it. But he had also looked the other way while something corrosive moved through his city, and he had called it keeping the peace. And it wasn't, and he knew it. And some mornings the coffee tasted like that. The lesson of Millfield, if you were paying attention, was not about Diana Voss. Plenty of cities have a Diana Voss. Or something like her, somebody with ambition and patience, and no particular attachment to the common good. The lesson was about what happens when the person who is supposed to be in the way isn't. Because being in the way feels unkind. Because conflict feels like failure. Because a man who genuinely doesn't want to hurt anyone can convince himself, for a surprisingly long time, that not acting is not a choice. It is always a choice. It just doesn't announce itself as one. Where there is a weak king, the throne is never empty. Someone fills it, and they don't tend to fill it with mercy.